Who is Tommy Robinson and who helped him get to where he is today? When we look into the background of the organization he founded, the English Defence League, we could take the view that it was intended to be an offshoot of the terrorist Zionist organization, the JDL, the Jewish Defence League. In fact, his co-founder at the English Defence League was an individual who called himself Paul Ray. Paul Ray, prior to founding the English Defence League, infiltrated the International Solidarity Movement, a pro-Palestinian organization which Rachel Corrie had been a member of. Paul Ray infiltrated and spied on this pro-Palestinian organization and then submitted the information to several different intelligence agencies. Following his work for Israel, Paul Ray founded the English Defence League with Tommy Robinson. When it came time for the English Defence League to be registered on Companies House, that was carried out by a former Israeli soldier, Roberta Moore. Moore led what they called the EDL's Jewish unit, which regularly partnered with the Zionist Federation to hold demonstrations outside the Israeli embassy. Roberta Moore is pictured here with the vice chair of the Zionist Federation at the time, Jonathan Hoffman.
Jonathan Hoffman is a former vice chair of the Zionist Federation. Members of the racist English Defence League, or EDL, attended a demonstration that Hoffman helped organise. He is photographed alongside Roberta Moore, the founder of the EDL's Jewish division. She will later express her admiration for Anders Breivik, the neo-Nazi who murdered 77 people in Norway.
When Roberta Moore was asked if the EDL was exploiting the Zionist movement, she replied, "If anything, we are exploiting them."
I received these packages today.
He's admired somewhat as one of the brains of the EDL. He's just got a delivery of quotes from the Quran from his researcher in Israel.
Roberta Moore is pictured here alongside the head of the Canadian branch of the Zionist terror organization, the JDL, and the genocidal Israeli politician Moshe Feiglin, who has called for the complete annihilation of all human life in Gaza. On the 28th of February 2013, the English Defence League, as registered on Companies House, was changed. The name of the organisation became the Jewish Defence League, JDL UK. It's important to remember that the JDL is designated as a terrorist organisation by the US government. It was founded by Meir Kahane, the well-known Israeli fascist who advocated for the complete ethnic cleansing of Palestine. But the connections of Tommy Robinson and the English Defence League to the JDL do not end there. One of the earliest supporters of the EDL and a regular speaker at their rallies outside of the Israeli embassy was none other than Rabbi Nachum Shifrin.
How would you feel if one day your children or your grandchildren are saying 5 times a day, Allah Akbar? Well, this is what is coming down on you here and now. It will be recalled on this day that it was the EDL that started the liberation of England.
Nachum Shifrin was the driver for the founder of the JDL, Meir Kahane. The only other time the English Defence League was registered on Companies House was by Tommy Robinson's personal assistant, Helen Gower. When she registered the organisation, the name was the English and Jewish Defence League. So the question has to be asked here, was Tommy Robinson's English Defence League founded to be an offshoot of the Zionist terrorist organisation, the JDL? And if so, why hasn't that been mentioned or written about extensively in the British media? Tommy Robinson then went on to be a Shillman Fellow at the David Horowitz Freedom Center. Now, the David Horowitz Freedom Center shares funders with the Friends of the IDF and illegal settlements in the West Bank. But that position was directly funded by tech billionaire Robert Shillman. Who is Robert Shillman? Well, he was a board member on the Friends of the IDF at the very same time that he was funding Tommy Robinson to the tune of £8,000 a month. according to his other former assistant, Lucy Brown. Here we see Robert Shillman speaking at the Zionist Organization of America and describing his pen and his checkbook as weapons.
With this pen and my checkbook, I provide ammunition. I wield a pen to provide ammunition to those organizations like ZOA who are on the front lines in this battle.
Tommy Robinson has also received funding from the US neocon think tank, the Middle East Forum, which was quoted 13 times by Anders Breivik in his manifesto he released before killing over 70 people. The head of the Middle East Forum is Greg Roman, who's a former employee of the Israeli Ministry of Foreign Affairs and the Israeli Ministry of Defense. Now, all of these connections would certainly cause you to question where Tommy Robinson's ultimate loyalties lie, especially when he has been pictured on the top of a tank in the Israeli-occupied Golan Heights of Syria and stated so clearly that he would enter a war on behalf of Israel.
If there was a war tomorrow, which there will be, because I'll probably start at the end of the session, if there was a war and it kicked off, I would be there on the front line fighting for Israel.
Save our kids? What about the 20,000 kids killed by Israel in Gaza? When Israel killed 3 former British soldiers with an airstrike in Gaza, what was the response of Britain's patriot, Tommy Robinson? British people that do aid work in Gaza are cucks. Play stupid games, win stupid prizes. How can Tommy Robinson define himself as a patriot but speak with such callousness about the death of former British soldiers? I think Tommy Robinson owes an apology to the families of John Chapman, James Kirby and James Henderson. Those who serve as an attachment to the war industry have sought to pin the blame for what is happening in this country on Russia. It's interesting because there is far more of a material connection between Tommy Robinson and a particular genocidal ally in the Middle East. As you've seen, unfortunately, the mainstream media across the last decades have been a complete deluge of dehumanization and demonization of the most vulnerable in society. Today, you have an alternative in Double Down News, which is publishing information which goes against the grain. Please support them in any way you can by joining their Patreon now.